Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Azarov's chess channel, and welcome to the last rapid game between Magnus Carlsen and Anish Giri. So it's really an incredible thing. Magnus needs to win this last game in order to make it to the Armageddon game. If you have followed my previous video, the title of this video before was Ali's on the rope. So it means Ali is really challenged Muhammad Ali. If in chess, of course, is Magnus Carlsen. He is now challenged by Anish Giri, who hasn't any points gained so far in the tournament. So it was really an incredible outcome of this tournament so far. Magnus needs to win the game. Let's see what happens. So e4 played by Magnus. Anish Giri played the move c5, the Sicilian, after knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and now knight to f6. We have knight to c3, and after a6 the Najdorf. And here Magnus pulled off this common move, bishop to g5. It's similar to the Richter-Rauser attack. We're challenging already the knight, trying to get really the most of this bishop, because after potential e6 we would always continue on the spinning idea. And now Magnus pulled off this move f3. This is of course the preparation when, for instance, black castle, bishop to e7, king side castling, that you have the opportunity to play g4, h4, and simple attacks on the king side. But the problem is about this attack, in some occasions you play the move f3 and bishop to e3, is that sometimes your bishop stands in the way because you would love to play g4 and then g5, but your bishop is already there. So sometimes you would be forced to even give up your dark square bishop in an early stage of the game. In the game, bishop to e7, played by Anish Giri, simple, healthy developing move, and now queen to d2 with preparations to castle on the queen side, which is of course a good choice. And the most natural way. In the continuation of the game, we will have this so-called opposite side attack game, in which black will castle on the king side, white will castle on the queen side, and who is faster on the attack will simply win the game. So in the game, castling played, castling also by Magnus, and now we have b5, and this is also a natural move in order to make something happen. b4 now is a serious threat, or maybe really try to open somehow the b file, even if you have to sacrifice some more material. But the main idea here is to simply be fast on the attack. That's why a3, a preventing idea here by Magnus, never allowed this b4 to happen, because a5 is so far not a possibility, because then this pawn on b5 would be hanging. So bishop to b7, and now king to b1 played by Magnus, and now knight from b to d7. And there is this problem about this position. There are always these tactical threats to play something like knight takes e4 and take out the bishop. So far, this is not a possibility, as the knight can always recapture on e4, and then we would have everything perfectly covered. But in the game, Magnus pulled off the move queen to e1, and you see he left the defense of this bishop on g5. So basically, even now, I think knight takes e4 works, because after bishop to e7, we have this knight to c3 in between check. After queen takes c3, queen to e7, and we would get a pawn, which is, I think, a huge thing in this particular position, because I don't think that white has some kind of a attack in this position, doesn't have any compensation for this extra pawn. Sometimes, of course, in the Sicilian, you can really give up a pawn, but here I think that Magnus doesn't have any compensation. So queen to e7 solves all of the problems, and in the next move we can even improve our position with potential d5. Then you don't continue with this d6 weakness. So here in the game, rook to c8 was played, and now h4. Now, of course, this tactics knight to e4 doesn't work, as the bishop is protected. But now queen to c7, simply healthy developing move by Anish Giri, now with preparations maybe to play knight to c5, knight to a4, maybe after knight takes a4, attack somehow the c2 weakness. Still, everything is protected, but I always like to see what are black's possibilities, what are white possibilities in this position, how can we attack this position. In the game, rook to h3, played by Magnus, also sometimes a common idea. Rook to g3, bishop to h6 is sort of a tactical idea. In the game, rook to e8 was played, and now comes h5. And you see now Anish Giri didn't miss this tactic. He saw that, of course, because here knight takes e4 finally, played by Anish Giri. In the game, you see your bishop is hanging. If you take, for instance, with this knight, then you get first bishop takes e4, and if you take now the bishop, we have this in between check, bishop takes c2. So again, Anish Giri waited this move, h5 to happen, then this bishop is not protected anymore, and he finally found the tactic. Didn't see this tactic a couple moves ago, but now after knight to c4, he has really a comfortable game. Bishop takes e7, we have knight to c3, this in between check. Here b takes c3, and here finally rook takes e7. Black has a good game. Black cannot basically lose this game. If only Anish Giri makes here a huge blunder, then he lose the game. Magnus tried knight to f5. Here Anish Giri simply took, which wasn't the best move, I think, for Anish. He can play here knight to b6. Okay, I'm giving up back material, but after knight takes e7, queen takes e7, we have reached a similar position like in this example before. Still, I think black has a good game, although down the exchange, but here you have really some weaknesses on c3. So Magnus tried to do these tactics. Even here a possibility is to play something like king to f8, knight takes e7, king to e7. This king is perfectly fine. The king is not so endangered. Maybe you could pull off some checks, but king to f8, again, here knight to c5 and knight to a4 is really dangerous, because the c3 is a huge weakness. But in the game, Anish played a drawish line. He saw really some great tactics, as he needs only a draw in order to win the game against Magnus. A takes f5, queen takes e7, but now queen to c3. The queen is now deflected from the defense, and now this is really a serious threat. In the game, bishop to d3 was played, and now knight to c5 by Anish. He doesn't have any threats. Now the main goal is to play knight to a4, queen to b2 is of course a weakness in white's position. In the game, bishop takes f5, and now a very cool move by Anish Giri, knight to b3, which is really a drawish line. If you take c takes b3, then you get checkmated. That's the problem. Here queen takes, we can include this bishop in the attack, so that's why it's really another possibility here to take the knight. That's the main problem, so that's why Magnus tried here king to a2, but now Anish played knight to c1, again a great simplification move, because here after rook to c1 we have the opportunity to play a very dangerous check with the bishop. Bishop to d5 is the possibility. If you go king to b1, then I think we can again try some perpetuals here with queen to b4, queen to a3. So in the game, Magnus played after the move knight to c1, king to b1, but now again knight to b3, king to a2, knight to c1, king to b1, and now knight to b3, and this was 3 times repeated position, and it was a draw. So I'm not sure what happened here. I didn't really expect this to happen, that Magnus will lose against Anish Giri. Anish Giri has still made this tournament very complicated now, as Hikaru Nakamura with the win, I think he can be the board leader. We'll see what will happen. Thanks Anish Giri, he really made this tournament again exciting, as Magnus was crushing everyone, but now he lost that crucial game in round 2, where he really missed some tactics with this move f3. It's still a great tournament for me. I like surprises. Of course, it's not always good to see that Magnus wins everything. So here we'll have a great tournament. Hikaru Nakamura still has to play more great games. For instance, he has to face Dingler and Fabiano Caruana and Maxim Vachilagraf, who are really the two top 3 grandmasters now these days. So he will have a tough battle in order to dethrone Magnus Carlsen here. We'll see what will happen. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games so far from this tournament. Here's the link, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have never played in chess history. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.